Welcome to the 8 Billion Project, where we're on a mission to make an impact by discovering and sharing the purpose of every person on this planet. I'm your host, Liza, Florida. Enjoy today's episode. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the 8 Billion Podcast. I am your host, Liza, Florida, and today I am super excited about my guest, Ryan Forrest. Ryan is a former D1 wrestler turned digital marketing ninja. He's currently the VP of marketing at Kennected, a LinkedIn lead generation company. He is into mindful living, which includes movement, meditation, and earth medicine. And he is a future chief shaman officer. So welcome, Ryan Forrest, to the 8 Billion Podcast. How are you doing today?
Thanks for having me, Lisa. It's an honor to be here. I am fantastic. Thank you. How are you?
Well, I am going to jump into it. Well, it seems like, Ryan, you have just made the move, not too long. Like you made the move from California, where I'm from, all the way to Indiana.
Yeah, about 8 months ago, I was getting some omens from the universe that it was time to change directions. I was working as a freelance digital marketer, which has its perks of freedom. Yet when the lockdowns came around and there was no ability to have movement around and to go out and see other people, I decided it was time to be around other people that were moving in a similar direction to me. And like I said, some omens called me over to Indiana. And I can elaborate on what I mean by omens, because I think that will lead into the spiritual discussion here today. Have you ever read the book, The Alchemist?
You know what? It might have been a while, but I definitely have heard of it. And if anything, I have to go through my box of books again to bring those out. And, I've been reading a lot of books lately. So
yeah, it's amazing. It's one of my top 3 favorite books. Highly recommend it to anyone watching. And on page 43, I won't go too deep into what it's about, but on page 43, one of the words is learn to follow omens, or learn to recognize omens and follow them. And so what omens are basically these signs from the universe. In other words, God speaking to you. So many times God, the universe, source, however we want to call it, is communicating with us very directly, but we're not listening. And so there's constantly these little hints about which direction we should go. And I've learned recently to really tune into those hints. And some of those hints were just leading me to come to Indiana, working with the LinkedIn lead generation company around a lot of young, motivated hustlers. And I'm really in the empire building phase of my life. So it's an exciting time to be here. And Indiana was a lot more open. And that's something I was really excited about. So gotten to live my life a little more here.
No, let's elaborate on omens, right? Because I was just going to say, digital marketing brings so much freedom and, of course, like a lot of abundance financially and all that kind of stuff. And to go from to go from that into corporate, that is a different one. Everyone was switching the opposite during that. So would you elaborate on what those omens might be? Because I am huge on omens and signs from the universe.
Absolutely. Some of the omens were basically California being in lockdown for the very foreseeable future. I did not see that changing. And so as a freelance digital marketer, I was spending a lot of time working alone at my house, which definitely has its perks of the complete freedom. Yet, if that goes on long enough without you being able to get out and really socialize, that is a lot of what gives us fulfillment as humans, that connection. And here I get to not just freelance and do everything on my own. I get to work with a team of people that can do some of the things that maybe aren't my strongest suits, so that we can collaborate together to build something great.
Yeah. So it was just calling to, and that's what I'm saying. Like for me, omens started becoming really big for me. Like for some reason, there was a shift. Like I lost my mom in 2018 to cancer, right? And that year preceding was really like, it was really long. I mean, it was very long because, of course, I think I was like healing. But once she hit her 1-year anniversary, it was like September 2019, everything just sped up. Like I just started seeing angel numbers like everywhere. I mean, those are part like omens, right? Like your 111s, but I was literally seeing 25 to 30 a day, if not even close to 50. And I was even showing my sister, I was just like, look. And she was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy.
But I mean, angel numbers are just one type of omen. Sometimes they can be impartings from the universe, right? It just depends on how clear your channel is or your ability to listen.
Yeah. And what are those angel numbers communicating to you?
Well, for me, I mean, I was so fascinated by it. Then I started looking at it, right? And like 111 would just be like, notice your thoughts at the time, right? And then I think like 888 was abundance or something. And then 777 was spiritual, but it could be anything what it is to you. They can, you can look them up and they can be, they can have definitions to them, right? But it can be whatever that is to you. I was just seeing them in such like, volumes, and all the time it was just like something was changing and shifting internally in me. Although I feel like my first leg of my spiritual journey probably started in 2008. It just bumped up right after that. So I think that became a series for me and huge spiritual awakening. And then 2020, when the pandemic hit, was big for me because I stayed, it was just me and my son. And then I went into deep meditation. And of course, I tuned all media off, like mainstream media off. And I tuned into like the biggest channel, which is, my higher self. And then that's why I'm here today with you on the other side. But Ryan, I mean, there's a lot. I mean, being the VP of Kennected right now and wanting, you're going to scale that to 50 million, right? To being, going through a personal development journey and then also going down the journey of plant medicine. And could you elaborate on like where your personal development journey started?
Yeah. I'm a little nervous to share this, but I will. I've never shared this publicly. I've only shared this in small groups. I used to be kind of the shy kid in the corner. I was always an athlete, an Eagle Scout. I was doing well in school, and so I was more focused on doing well in those areas than socializing. And yet, when I saw my friends, I saw they were having fun. They were interacting with girls, and they had like girlfriends. I didn't have any girlfriends through high school or really through the first couple of years of college. And what led to this journey, what really started it, was I was on a website for lonely people you may have heard of called Pornhub. And there was an ad on there that said, hey, there's 21 steps to get a girlfriend. I'm like, what? I'll click, I'll bite, and watch this video sales letter, which funny enough, that is digital marketing as its core. I create some things like that. It's evolved quite a bit from there. But that threw me into this world of man improvement, of understanding masculine, feminine dynamics, different paradigm shifts, different ways of being as a man. And really that evolved into the more spiritual side of masculine and feminine energy. Way of the Superior Man became one of my favorite books. And I really became obsessed with this world in really improving myself, because basically I think at the core, while I want to build empire and have the freedom to travel the world and all this other stuff, at the core, I believe what I want, what most people really want, is just to love and be loved. And so I was really pushing to be the best version of myself so I could attract people into my life that would basically love me for being me, and that I could add value to them.
No, that's amazing. So all of your personal development started off with like books that you read, right?
Yeah,
did you do any seminars? Like, cause I did, there's Landmark and there's Psi seminars. I'm a huge student of Psi seminars. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was just my start. And I'd also had another kind of side journey start with business, with Rich Dad Poor Dad and Amway, which I was in for a month. That was not the right business model for me, but that also kicked off that side of personal development and business improvement. And one of my main mentors at the time in that man improvement space said, hey, one of the best ways to attract women is, and to have the freedom to do what you want, when you want, with who you want, digital marketing. So like, all right, I'm in. So he's like, make 6 figures from anywhere in the world on your laptop. I was like, sold. Let's do that. And so that led me into going to all these books or reading all these books, buying online courses, going to seminars, in-person events of different kinds. And I really became obsessed with this world. Actually went thousands of dollars into debt, spent way more money than I had, because I knew, I was like, anything that I invest in myself to learn these things will come back tenfold later on in life, right?
Yes,
I
absolutely.
learned these principles, and digital marketing happens to be the vehicle through which I can implement these things to really help others, because I help awesome entrepreneurs get their message out to the world, selling products and services that I believe in, that I know can help people. And so, like with our current company, the LinkedIn lead generation company, a lot of entrepreneurs were struggling to get new leads and sales in COVID, because they were used to networking events and in-person meetings being their main source of business. And so by helping get this product into entrepreneurs' hands, they are better able to get more business, serve more customers, feed their family better, and live the life that they want. So it's really my way of, it's a win-win situation where the more people I help, the more I can elevate myself as well.
Wow. So then that's where it started. But then is it the personal development seminars that actually led you down into starting the journey of plant medicine? Because this is where we are going to. I was like, this is what I'm so excited about.
There's many different journeys along the way. So where that started was, I was about 20, and I think like most people wanted a deeper understanding of God and spirituality and where I stood in the universe. And I went to church my whole life, most Sundays, and had just had some questions along the way. It was a good church, really good people there. I learned a lot of good stuff, but I'd had some questions along the way, and really started to explore that in college. And at one point, I actually went atheist for a little bit. But then I started to experiment with mushrooms and LSD, and that shifted my perspective a little bit, because you can start to see more of the world around you, the energetic world around you, and like, oh, we're surrounded by this energy of love. There's more connectedness than I can see in this everyday waking reality. That was the start, and it elevated quite a bit from there. So I don't know how far we want to take it.
And then from there, you decided to, now is plant medicine, is plant medicine considered, is it called ayahuasca, or is ayahuasca just one of the different plant medicines that are available out there?
Ayahuasca is one of a few, but that is the primary one. When people refer to plant medicine, generally they're talking about ayahuasca. Some people are referring to weed. I don't really consider that as much. Some people are referring to different tobacco kinds, but ayahuasca is the primary one. And that, honestly, for me, has had the most profound impact and the deepest insights into different levels of consciousness, God, the spirit world, etc.
Yeah. What's interesting though, is I've been seeing a lot of it. I'm getting omens a lot. And that's why when I was introduced to you and I saw that you had done plant medicine, I was like, shaman, another shaman. Even when I started this journey of like this ever unfolding like vision of this calling, something was even telling me like, I need to go see a shaman, because when I was in personal development, I came across other shamans too. So I was like, I need to see a shaman. But Vishen, who is the founder of Mind Valley, has been actually doing a lot of sponsored marketing on his experience on ayahuasca. And he's seeing so many business executives right now are turning to it to have, clarity on where their visions are taking them. Did you say that you started at the age of 20? When was your first experience of ayahuasca?
First experience of ayahuasca, I was 25, I believe.
25. Did you go down to South America to do it?
So I'd learned about it at 20 and didn't get to do it until or 21, I believe, and didn't get to do it until 25 because I believed the only way to do it was to go down to the jungles of Peru and spend a week down there. I hadn't been able to do that, but I did a little research. At 25, I was almost a year out of a breakup that was still deeply affecting me emotionally, deeply in love, and I thought I might spend my life with this woman. And so I was still processing some of that. I'd moved across the country. Things hadn't worked out. But also I had lost an opportunity that was my dream job. I was working with a 8-figure entrepreneur that was living the kind of life that I wanted. I really saw him as a mentor and was learning a lot from him. And nothing malicious happened, but he had let me go because I realized, like, well, let me know there was some maturing to do. And I realized some of this was attached to this ego. And I knew one of the greatest ways to break from the ego was through ayahuasca, through gaining a different perception. A lot of people come out of ayahuasca journeys with ego deaths, so to speak. So I was doing some research and found Soul Quest, Ayahuasca Church of Mother Earth in Orlando, Florida, and went down there for 3 ceremonies over the course of 2 days, and that really opened my eyes.
It really opened your eyes.
Yeah.
And since that time, how many times have you done ayahuasca, or is that just experience enough in and of itself?
It is, though I've sat with it 11 times. So Some people get enough out of it once. I've continued to go back. The shaman that I worked with came out to Southern California a couple times, reached out to me over Facebook, basically like, you want to join? Yes. And after a couple times, he actually asked me to help him facilitate a ceremony. So I've gotten to help him facilitate. And through these journeys, I've actually seen that later in life, I will be sharing the medicine myself, stepping into more of a shamanic role and helping. So I'm getting to learn from the people doing it.
Have you done it yet? Have you done it yet? Have you assisted? Oh, you just said that, right? You have assisted, but have you actually done a ceremony on your own, or you're still working towards that?
Oh yeah, no, I've done 11 ceremonies where I sat and actually took the medicine, and then one of the ceremonies, which there was 3 over the course of the weekend, I was assisting, helping facilitate him and helping other people who were having a harder time move around and manipulating energy, playing the how am I drawing a blank right now? The sound bowls.
Yeah, the singing bowls or the sound bowls. Yes.
The singing bowls and spreading good energy.
So, okay. So let me ask you, I'm getting excited. I was like, I want to participate because I really do feel like it's in my future, like in the very near future.
Yes.
When are you actually are you scheduled to do another event?
Potentially at the end of the month. Maybe again in September.
But you're not locked in for sure. You don't know, because I just want to let the audience know this is beginning of July, you guys. So it just depends. This might actually, depending on, you are actually coming out on season 3, Ryan. So, but depending on sequence, this might be in time for any of the audience members who are interested in it, or there might have been one event that, but I'm definitely participating. I was like,
awesome.
Ryan,
Awesome.
I was just like, no. Okay. So let me ask you, because you've done it for, like 11 times. And could you let everyone know first, like the definition of a shaman is? And, if you could just, tell the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. A shaman is a spiritual guide who helps others see different levels of consciousness through sharing of the plant medicines. I'm not going to call myself a shaman. I'm working towards that. The shaman is a word I use with great respect. Many of them have trained since a young age, have been chosen by their tribe, and done the medicine many, many times. But essentially, they're helping people navigate the spiritual world and to experience different levels of consciousness through these plant medicines.
Right. Because we've seen, I've taken an interest in ayahuasca like many years ago, but then of course you go on YouTube and you search it, right? And you're like, they're in the jungles, and you start people like crying, and what they look like is going crazy. But what I heard though too was that they're just saying, but remember, like, it's a YouTube story. So they're going to show you all different, but it's truly a beautiful experience, although it might seem chaotic, because I have had so many other people that I know have done ayahuasca. They've done it in a retreat in Beverly Hills. They've done it all around the world. But I think most people think that they have to go down to the forest because, of South America, just simply because of the shaman who actually assist you into that spirit realm.
And that is an incredibly important piece. You do want to make sure that you are with a very legit shaman who has lots of experience. Many people can vouch for them, that they are bringing good energy, because there are people out there that might not be using it for the best purposes. I'd say that's rare, but you definitely want to do your research on the shaman and make sure you are with someone who you can trust. That's very important. Set and setting is incredibly important here. This is not something you do alone. This is not something that you fuck around with. Like, this is serious business. It will shift your perspective in many ways. You may be out of control in ways that you never have been before, and you need to make sure someone is there who knows what they're doing and can take care of you.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. It's just like everyone, being able to hold space for each other. And that's another thing too, right? When you do shrooms, they always say, do it with people that, that are really supportive of your energy. Well, because, once you start dosing it or taking it in large volumes, or you can't turn back. Yes. And whatever your experience is and then you're also sharing energy with everyone around you. So I will admit that I have microdosed everyone. That was my first, but I mean, like I was with a group of phenomenal people, and it was just absolutely amazing. And it wasn't a lot, but I was just saying, like, it was enough for me to like understand that, if I, it was just really eye-opening. And I, I even had a friend that was saying, like, it was interesting, like she'd experienced anxiety before, and she really felt like anxiety. She was like, she couldn't even explain it, that the earth was pulling her anxiety out of her body. I mean, that's one experience, guys. But I just feel like I am in that part of my spiritual journey where it is something that interests me greatly. And I was just like, I don't think that there are accidents. And we were introduced, Ryan. So, if, of course, offline, I'll probably have more talks about this with you. But I definitely feel like it's the next step of like spirituality for me.
Absolutely. And thank you for sharing your friend's story. That is a big reason why a lot of people get into it. Many people come out of these different ceremonies, mushrooms, LSD, ayahuasca, they're all different, but they come out with less anxiety, getting away from depression, less attachment to addictions, less attachment to ego and stress, because you are shifting your perspective on things and seeing that you don't have as much attachment to this 3D world. You're seeing that we are all energy, light being
connected. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, of course. And it depends, of course, with each podcast guest, how deep I go into spirituality. But, and I think I did share this when we got on a call together. I said, like, the big mission is to help bring the 5D consciousness down to 3D. And so I know that it is still it's a long journey, but I do feel like the chasm between 3D and 5D is really collapsing fast. If you could see, there's a lot of divine masculines that are going through so many things. There's a lot of opening of doors and closing of doors that are happening so much faster because the universe is almost it's almost in a way, I was talking to my one of my advisors, she was like, the universe is really unforgiving right now. So a lot of a lot of things are in play in terms of people's spiritual growth and evolution. So we can rise to that 5D consciousness and get there. But it's asking us to pull from a place that we've, which is internal. And so that's why I'm saying, like, I love doing podcasts like this and with guests like you, because of course I'll have everything from business side to authors and all this kind of stuff. But herein lies my mission. And it is to raise consciousness on being mindful with every guest that I have and every message that I can share. So this makes it so much greater. Like I could talk to you and, the definitions are easy, but I get it for anyone tuning into the audience. I know that there's a lot of things that we're throwing out on a deeply spiritual part, but I just wanted to give this to you guys as an audience, as this might be one pathway. There are so many different pathways,
Yes. And I'm on a very similar mission. So that's why it's really awesome to be here. And I might throw out some things here that might sound a little strange. But one of the things that you realize on these plant medicines is that we are not simply human beings given a soul at birth, living one life. And then we have fate at the end of that, determining where we go for the rest of existence. Rather, we are infinite spiritual beings temporarily experiencing this time and place called Earth in a human body. And one of the aspects of being an infinite spiritual being is we get to come back to Earth at times of our choosing. And I know we talked about this in our initial call, something called the Great Awakening going on, as you're mentioning, this shift to 5D consciousness. And so we, as these infinite spiritual beings, chose to be here during this time of great change. And that is one of our purposes here, that we're now waking up to realizing and being able to start sharing that. So it's an honor to be here and
and just to piggyback on that, that's exactly to the audience why I said the universe is very unforgiving. So here we are as infinite spirits, right? Or like having a human experience.
Yeah.
So when I say that the universe is unforgiving, it's because we have to remember who we are and what we came here for. And that's the one thing, is when we agreed to come into this lifetime with these human bodies, we agreed to forget. But we did agree too that we would create a journey and path to always remembering, or to being awakened to remember who we truly are. And so a lot of us are awakening in like mass numbers, but it's nice because it's easier now to, I would say right now, because like I said, dimensions are collapsing. Whereas like in 2008, when I had my when I first had my first awakening, I went down the, the conspiracy theorist route. So it was very much a fearful route. And it was, I learned so much, but at the same time, it was very fearful. So my first thing was, when it clicked for me, was a paradigm shift, that no matter how much I would, I thought it was a noble thing to go out there and tell everyone all these truths. I had to understand first that the freedom lied inside myself, but I still didn't know I'd have like a 10 to 12 year journey after that. But you know what I'm saying? And it's different. I'm not scaring anyone. I'm not saying it's 10 to 12 years. I'm just saying that every person has a different timeline. Mine was like sometimes stretched out because there was other stuff that were involved in it.
Absolutely. And to give some context to people who maybe haven't experienced these different states of consciousness, and this might sound a little woo-woo, I always like to bring it back to the scientific side of things. So if you look into quantum physics at a very basic level, you'll see that if you take a microscope and keep zooming in, you'll find at the core, we're just empty space and energy. And you may have seen it in Ant-Man and the Wasp, the quantum realm. There's different rules. Things behave differently. And again, at the core, we're just interconnected web of energy. And with that, the first law of thermodynamics, energy can neither be created nor destroyed, only change forms. So if all we are is energy, and energy can neither be created nor destroyed, only change forms, that means we've been around for billions of years just shifting forms. And that goes back to this choice of manifesting in this form right now for this very brief moment in our existence in this human body, which is why there's less stress and less attachment to the day-to-day.
Got it. Now, Ryan, are you inclined to ever like share an experience of what the consciousness shift is like when you are on ayahuasca? I mean, I know it's deeply personal for each person, but if there's anything like as an example that you're willing to share?
Sure, absolutely. And I think it'd be good to also give some context as to what ayahuasca is.
Yes.
People aren't familiar with that. So ayahuasca is a brew that originally discovered in the Amazon, with the active ingredient being DMT, dimethyltryptamine. Now, DMT is something we create endogenously, meaning naturally in our own bodies. Some people think it's from the pineal gland, others think it's in our spine. This is released in near-death experiences. So many people who have these experiences and say, oh, I saw God, and come back, it's very similar to that. It's also naturally produced in many, many plants, mammals, all over the world. This is a very natural substance all around us that gives us access to this spiritual realm. It's called the spirit molecule. And so ayahuasca, again, is naturally occurring in our body. We have an enzyme that breaks it down so that we're not just tripping all the time. So what ayahuasca does is it mixes the DMT with the capstronine vine that inhibits that enzyme and allows for a 4 to 6 hour experience on this DMT in the spirit realm. So I'll give an experience from my first ceremony. There was many, but I was a Division I wrestler, as you mentioned in the intro, and one of the objectives of a wrestler is to gain total control over yourself, and then in the form of not eating or drinking and getting yourself into shape, and then using that to gain control over others. And so one of the things that I held on to internally was always needing to be in control. I don't really drink to the point where I can't control myself or even drive. And one of the lessons in that first ayahuasca ceremony, I got a little cocky with it. Like I was like, I'll take a cup and a half. Everyone was starting with a cup. Nothing was really happening. And everyone was throwing up around me. I'm like, I'm good. Nothing's happening. I started doing a little yoga. I'm just taking notes. Bring it. And then wham! And I get very primal on DMT and on ayahuasca, and started thrashing around. I get very primal. A lion word comes out and everything, but it's kind of like thrashing around there to a point where I did not have control over myself. And one of the lessons in that was, hey bro, like you're always trying to be in control. Like you don't need to control everything. Sometimes you just let go with the flow of the universe. Like we got you. Another part of that was as I was thrashing around, I started inside. The shaman came in playing this long wooden flute type of thing to try to calm me down. And he's like, he needs to be with Mother Nature. And so it took 5. On other ceremonies, I've been able to like get up in the middle of the ceremony, kind of walk around. This was very strong ayahuasca. 5 grown-ass men to pick me up, like walk me outside, lay me face down to the earth. I felt my body literally melt into the earth. I was like, felt such a deep connection with Pachamama, Mother Earth, and that led me to do solar sails for about 6 months. Not too long after that, I was like, oh, I'm going to help the earth there. And one thing that I also did, they laid me face down, and I'll give a little context before I say what happened face down. But leading up to ayahuasca, there's a dieta, which is essentially where you cut out all the toxic stuffs from your diet. You're cutting out red meats, dairies, fermented foods, spicy food, caffeine, alcohol, lots of stuff. I mean, you're giving up sex for a week or 2, or like any kind of...
Oh, you're literally purging everything out of your body.
It's a deep cleanse. And I, for most of my life, I did sports year round. I mean, I worked out really hard, still do, but I was like, hey, if I work out hard enough, like I can eat whatever I want, which had led to my body failing me in college wrestling. I got overtraining syndrome, adrenal fatigue, burnout. It goes by different names. And I felt awful all the time, just very heavy. It was like I was carrying around handbills. My head was always foggy. I was getting sick all the time. Just in a really bad energetic state. And the harder I worked, the worse it got. And again, I thought I'm working out hard enough, I can eat whatever I want. I was eating a lot of like microwave dinners and just crap, basically. And the day I had to clean me out of a lot of that. And so coming back to the ceremony, face down in the earth, and I literally start going, this is not normal, by the way. This is not something most people do. Afterwards, after I came out, I was like, did I really do that? Like, what?
You were eating the dirt in the ground?
Dirt in the earth. And one of the lessons there was like, hey, you've been eating all this shit. Like, eat more stuff from the earth. Like, eat me, be clean. I went a whole lot more whole food, plant-based after that. I'm definitely not vegan or even vegetarian, but I am a lot more whole food, plant-based. Like leading up to that point, I didn't really eat vegetables. I love vegetables, eat a lot more clean. So that was just one experience, but that was a really good one.
That was your first experience of ayahuasca, though?
That was my first, all those things.
Oh my gosh. And then in your first, like you said, you went to Orlando, you did 3 ceremonies, right? Does everyone have to partake in 3 ceremonies, or
No.
did you one?
Many opt out. There was a choice for 3 ceremonies. I saw that there was different lessons to be gained through each one, and I'm really grateful I did 3. Like on the third one, I decided to do 3 cups, which is that's a lot. And I saw the interconnected web of consciousness, and Buddhist, it's the mandala. It's actually there on my necklace.
Wow.
It's like the universe. It's the interconnectedness of all life. And so I saw us all as like this spider web, and like one part of the spider web was connected with every other part of the spider web, but we were all just like these dew droplets on there. And I could feel everybody around me. I was like calling out to them. I was like, there's some bad vibes. I'm trying to give good vibes. It's like, they're like, oh, you were loud. Like, I'm just trying to raise everyone up. But it
were you one of the loudest in the group?
Yeah. In a bit, yeah. A lot of people, yeah. I have very primal, and a lot came out.
Okay. But Ryan, like, so seriously, okay, is there only one shaman assisting, or there's a shaman and then there's multiple assists? Okay.
At this ceremony, there was a shaman, but there was also like 20 facilitators that were there to help.
Got it. And are they do they take ayahuasca too?
Not while they're facilitating. In different ceremonies, sometimes they'll take a smaller dose just to be in that space with you. But in this particular ceremony, they were not.
Oh, got it. Okay. Yeah. So if, for instance, because you've assisted already, when you do assist, do you take it, or like if you do, you can probably just take a small dose?
I did, yeah, a smaller dose.
Okay. Yeah, it's just
people, but still, again, that was incredibly strong. I was like, most of the time, every other experience after those 3, I've been able to, like, you're in and out of it. Like, you can stand up and walk to the bathroom if you need, and still have some level of consciousness. But then in other times, you're completely gone. There is no ego. There is no sense of Ryan and self. You were just one with the universe and the spirit realm, and seeing these different spirits. It's pretty incredible. But there's, again, on a smaller dose, you do have, oftentimes it's different with each person. But for me, at least, I had the ability to still walk around and really help people out.
Now, okay, let me ask you, like when people talk about shrooms, before I think even microdosing was still available, because microdosing has become more popular in the recent years because people are doing that even during the work time.
Yes.
But they always said, like from what I know of my friends that did shrooms, they always said, it's also better to be in a good space, not just the friends that surround you, that if you are, in life, you have to be in a better space. Would you recommend that is the case for everyone? Or do they come like, I'm bringing all my fucking baggage and shit with me? Sorry, I don't really cuss during podcasts, but it just, you know what I mean? This is going to get real because I'm pretty sure people are going to be interested in this stuff.
Yeah. And different people carry around different levels of baggage. And one of the beautiful things about those is sometimes they help you work through that. So set and setting is definitely incredibly important. You want to make sure you're around the right people who are going to bring good energy, who aren't going to be freaking out. You want to make sure there's no responsibilities on your plate that you're worrying about. Like, oh, I got to get this done for work, or this person's going to call me and I'm going to have to answer and try to talk in this state. Like, I don't want to have to talk. And maybe want to be around nature. Oftentimes I want to get outside when I really do it, because you feel a deep connection to the earth. You're like, oh, this is Mother Earth supporting me. I want to be around and in this and around the trees and feel the breeze and feel the sun.
Yes.
So it's definitely incredibly important to be in the right space. This isn't something you want to do in a busy apartment with lots of people coming in and out.
Right. No, but in most cases, like even internally on a personal level, like I'm assuming that people that are wanting to do plant medicine or ayahuasca are like in this state of like, one, they're like either wanting to get some deeper answers to questions in life, right? Mm-hmm. Or they're going through major change.
Yeah.
Right. Because that's what I was going to say. And I think that some people often in the past, until it started becoming more popular or people started having a better understanding of it, you know, you're a brilliant like in marketing and you're able to actually hold your career and be able to do it brilliantly. I think people have this thing about like, if I do ayahuasca, am I going to be okay? Am I going to lose everything? Am I going to become woo-woo and this spiritual thing? And could you answer that? I mean, has it helped so much professionally?
It certainly helps in the way, in like my energy levels, like everyone at the office, like you're always good vibes. Like you're never in a bad mood. Like, bringing the good energy. Someone today was, one of the girls at the office today was like, hey, can you like help me out? People tell me you're like a motivator. Like energy, can you help me with this? Like, I find myself as motivated.
You're here, take a cup of ayahuasca now.
Yeah, I mean it's only for people that feel called to it. I wouldn't like say push this on everyone, but for people that do want those insights, it certainly can provide a very different perspective. So to kind of answer your question, like it affects different people differently. Some people, I'd say it's a very small percentage of people take it and go full hippie. Sure. That does happen to some people because they just realize like, oh wait, this 3D realm is a matrix. This reality that I thought was my life is not necessarily
not my life.
Base reality. Like this is the reality that we can experience in this 3D consciousness. But that's not necessarily base reality. So they want to spend more time around Mother Nature and exploring those realms of consciousness. But for many people, they can bring back the lessons, integrate it, and really use that to improve their health, their diet, get rid of old bad habits that were holding them back, improve their relationships because they're not holding on to old baggage that was potentially from other relationships, like now affecting this one because they've been able to process these things, maybe repairing relationships with family. There's so many benefits that come out of it because especially with ayahuasca, it makes you go deep and really process a lot of things that you've been holding on to, gain a different perspective on that so you can come out a happier, healthier human, which is why sharing the medicine is part of my future. It's what I feel called to do.
Is that what you feel you're called to do?
Yeah. I really see myself using earth medicine as the beginning to help people integrate mind, body, and soul into one holistic higher self. Mm-hmm. And then combining that with all the personal development that I've done, working on the mindset stuff, along with all the body optimizations, to really integrate the lessons that they get from the earth medicines, plant medicines. Earth medicines are slightly different. That includes even more, but integrate the lessons that they get from that into the real world so that they can, again, have better relationships, more health, more abundance in their life, and so much more.
Well, it seems like it, yeah, I mean, like this has been such an amazing conversation though, Ryan, but it seems like you really tapped into a true, authentic part of yourself. Like for you, and I just really want to commend you and say thank you so much for just sharing yourself authentically, especially your journey as a young man. And that's what I'm saying. And I want you to know, Ryan, I've known a lot of, men and friends that have gone through down that journey of like wanting to, like learn how to date, women and all this kind of stuff. And here's the thing, authentically, even us on the other side, as women, we're trying to do the same thing. We're trying to figure men out. But I think we are truly coming into this amazing time in life where the true divine masculine and the true divine feminine are really coming into play now. They're learning to embrace that part. And as we all continue to heal, you're just going to start to see so much more, amazing things happen with like consciousness and the way we just operate as human beings, right? Because that's what I'm saying is all these things about being cool are no longer serving us. It took me a long time to truly, I was going through so many different patterns in relationship with men. It wasn't, you know what I mean? And then at which point I was just like, God, this is the same guy, different name tag. Yep. Little did I know that, mine was a longer journey simply because, maybe I should have taken ayahuasca earlier, but, mine was more of like, I didn't realize that I was a huge empath and that I wasn't creating healthy boundaries. And one, I wasn't really loving myself to my true capacity. You know what I mean? Because everything was out in the exterior and literally it has to take that shift within to understand that everything on the exterior is because of everything in the interior.
It is. And that was a huge shift for me as well. Because when I first got into that improvement kind of dating world, I did turn into a bit of a douche. I was focused on the exterior things. Like, what do I say? Like, how do I need to behave? I had this perception in my head of the guy I needed to be. And this, among other things, helped me shift to the more spiritual things like, who do I need to be internally and spiritually to the world?
Well, I know there were things like, I came across someone, a good friend of mine before, and he went through the same thing too, but it was all about rejecting the girl. Right. I don't know if that's like the douche side of it, but I was like, yeah, I totally fell for that shit. You know what I mean? And it's sad, but that's 3D. That's psychology. That's being in the ego. Yes. If you don't know, that's why they say, oh, the narcissist's worst nightmare is an educated empath. You know what I mean? But in the future, narcissism, sociopath, all of that is not going to play a difference or role once we're all in the 5D. All of those are just definitions or places to categorize in the psyche in terms of like, in terms of us being in the ego. Once we reach that place of being in the 5D, none of that, all of that just becomes irrelevant,
It does. That is God consciousness, Christ consciousness. However you want to see it. And once in that space, you just see the world as, again, interconnected web of consciousness and love as the highest frequency. And that's where you really, you come to the world operating out of a place of love, not just yourself or the ones around you, just being an energy of love for everybody, exuding that.
Yeah. Well, I could go on forever and ever and talking about this just because I have such a curiosity. However, for purposes of, giving people, instead of going for long lengths of time, I'm pretty sure that I would, I'm very interested in actually taking that next step. And then maybe doing another series or a podcast and talking about that experience, Ryan. But if there's anything that you want to share first, or like with the audience in general, of like a message that you'd like to share, is there anything that you'd like to leave the audience with?
Yeah, if I could share anything, it'd just be to love yourself. When you love yourself, you naturally fuel yourself with better foods. You naturally get out there and exercise. You naturally surround yourself with good people who are going to raise you up rather than pull you down. And it's kind of like the analogy of the oxygen on the airplane. When the oxygen masks fall, they say you got to put it on yourself first before you put it on someone else. So you have to take care of yourself first before you can take care of others. You have to love yourself first before you can love others. So love yourself deeply, and you'll be able to bring that energy to the world and really be of greater service to humanity.
Well, amazing. And I know you're already practicing that, because it absolutely shows in your soul and spirit. And thank you for sharing that here on the 8 Billion podcast today. Now, Ryan, if anyone is interested in either getting a hold of you to learn more about either one, of course, about Kennected, if anyone's, of course, interested in digital marketing, if you are that person in the audience, or if they are interested more in doing or going down that path of plant medicine, how would they be able to get a hold of you?
Absolutely. Probably the easiest way to get a hold of me would just be on Instagram at Ryan Forrest. That's RYAN, the number 4, EST. Feel free to shoot me a direct message. I'd be happy to talk with you.
Awesome. So you heard that, audience. And for anyone tuning in, we'll put that in the description box, either on YouTube, Apple, or Spotify. But I just want to say thank you again, Ryan, from the bottom of my heart, for being on this week's episode of 8 Billion. And I just want to thank the audience for tuning in to this episode. And I am, I'm super grateful for all the love and support. So thank you again. And
really appreciate it.
Thank you again, and we will see you on the next episode.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If it's moved you in any way, please review and share your thoughts, or text me your thoughts at 949-247-2800.